Hi everyone, my name is Manal and I am a Palestinian grassroots organizer and the international advocacy officer of Stop the Wall campaign. I'd like to talk about the ongoing Israeli ethnic cleansing in Masafer Yatta and the role of the Jewish National Fund in that. To start with, in May 2022, the so-called Israeli Supreme Court of Justice, which is an institution among many other institutions established to administer Israeli apartheid, ruled in favor of the ethnic cleansing of around 1,000 Palestinians, including 500 children, living in 8 villages in Masafer Yatta, and these villages are classified as Firing Zone 918. If the ethnic cleansing of the 1,000 Palestinians in Masafer Yatta takes place, it will be the largest since 1967. Masafer Yatta, which is located to the south of occupied West Bank, is home to about 2,500 Palestinians distributed across 14 villages that span an area of 30,000 dunams. Palestinians in Masafer Yatta make a living as farmers and as shepherds, which means that they have a strong connection to their land as it is their own source of income. And it is what determines their lifestyle, mainly a semi-nomadic and a rural lifestyle. And that relationship, the sustainable relationship that Palestinians in Masafer Yatta have with their land has been threatened, or Israel has been trying to cut that relationship through violence and through force. Things started in the 1980s when the Israeli authorities classified Masafer Yatta as a firing zone for the use of the Israeli military to carry out trainings in the area. And coinciding with that, with the Israeli classification of Masafer Yatta, the Jewish National Fund started taking over Palestinian land in the area through planting non-native pine trees, as it usually does, and through announcing the areas as nature reserves where Palestinian shepherds cannot access the areas. A few years after planting Palestinian stolen land with pine trees, the Israeli authorities started removing some of these trees in order to make way for the construction of the illegal settlement of Chavat Ma'un, where many fanatic settlers who keep attacking Palestinians live. And at that time, Palestinian resistance never stopped in order to stop the Jewish National Fund, which works in collaboration with the Israeli military, from taking over Palestinian land. And here I'd like to recall the story of Hajja Fatima Hureni, who's a farmer from Masafer Yatta, originally from a village that was ethnically cleansed during the violent coming into being of Israel in 1948. So Hajja Fatima in the 1980s managed to uproot all the planted pine trees by the JNF on her land, replacing them with crops in order to feed her family. And when Israeli attempts to expel Palestinians from their land through restricting their access to grazing areas, to water, not allowing them to build homes, among other restrictions, in 1999, the Israeli authorities invaded different villages in Masafer Yatta and removed Palestinians from their land by force, by loading them onto trucks. And that was in December in 1999. A few years later, in March 2000, the residents of Masafer Yatta who were expelled, and they were almost 1,000 Palestinians, they managed to return through an interim injunction by the Israeli court, which allowed them to return to their homes. And since then, they've been fighting on a daily basis in order to protect their existence on their land, and they've been resisting as well constant settler violence in the settlement of Khavat Maun and in other illegal Israeli settlements. But currently, with the court ruling and with the current far-right Israeli government that is accelerating the completion of the Zionist settler colonial project on the land of Palestine, we sound the alarm about the situation in Masafer Yatta and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians there, especially because we've noticed that after the court ruling in 2022, Israeli violence against Palestinians in Masafer Yatta has increased. Home demolition also increased. For instance, in the villages of Al-Fakhit and Al-Markaz, two of the threatened villages, the Israeli authorities demolished people's homes twice in less than a month between May 11th and June 1st. I met with some of these families in Al-Fakhit after the second demolition in June, and their situation was really bad. They were homeless, and they were saying that they cannot rebuild their homes because they know that the Israeli authorities will come again with their Volvo JCB bulldozers, the bulldozers that demolished their homes twice and demolished them again. So they ended up, one of the families ended up living in the school clinic in the area, which is also threatened by demolition. The Israeli bulldozers can come and demolish the school, and that was the fear of the students whom I talked with when I was there. They expressed their fear that their school might be demolished at any moment. But there is one thing that we know for sure will not be shaken, which is the determination of Palestinians in Masafer Yatta to stay on their land. And they took a decision to remain, no matter how violent the Israeli authorities and their settlers who usually assault Palestinians under the protection of the Israeli army are. And one of the tools of resistance, or of sumud, which means steadfastness or the persistence to stay on the land against their odds, against all odds, is tree planting. Tree planting, according to Palestinian farmers in Masafer Yatta and beyond, is an effective tool, is proving to be an effective tool to protect their land from confiscation. They are also a tool in order to obstruct any plans for the Jewish National Fund to entrench the illegal settlement enterprise in the West Bank, which is something that the Jewish National Fund has been doing for decades. But what is different now is that in 2021, the JNF announced that they will be working without hiding their complicity in the illegal settlement enterprise in the West Bank, and they allocated more than $12 million for these purposes, for colonizing land in the West Bank, stealing Palestinian land and also resources in the West Bank, and also supporting and giving the green light to settlers to stay in the land, and also to intimidate Palestinians. And we, like earlier this month, Israeli settlers they held a pogrom in the village of Hawara. So this is the kind of projects, and this is the kind of settlers that the Jewish National Fund supports, settlers who are ready to wipe out entire Palestinian villages. So it's important to support Palestinian farmers' steadfastness or sumud on the ground through tree planting, but also through fighting the Jewish National Fund and fighting to revoke its charitable status. Thank you so much.